So obviously you've already, you've been in it for a while. You figured it out a few years ago, and you decided recently that you wanted to go public, because you were kind of encouraging doctors, to speak out about what they know about the current pandemic. And, you decided that, who were you to advise them to do that if you weren't going to take steps in the same direction? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Thanks for keeping that YouTube friendly for me, because I may not have been able to do it.
No problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would be a really big hypocrite if I'm trying to hold them to task because they don't want to blow up their gig. My gig's kind of gone and behind me. There's nothing you guys can dig and get me fired from. So there you have it. But yeah, it's that's part of what's held me back was that my wife's a professional with the military as well. She's done almost 40 years and is retiring soon. So I wanted to start talking about this because there's just too many lies in the world now. It just seems like everything is deceit, and it gets overwhelming. The reason you don't ever look into it when you're in the moment is because you just figure the earth is just vast. You don't see curvature because it's huge, right? So you don't ever think to question it. I remember, I don't know, it was probably 2015. I don't know when the first basketball player or some sports figure came out and said, "Oh, the earth is flat." And I'm like, oh my God. Well, I had a little bit of time. I'm like, what's that? So I start to do a little research, right? And I Google, and guess what comes up? Flat Earth Society on the top thing. I read that. I go, what a freaking moron, these basketball players, right? So about a year later, one of my daughters actually said, "Dad, have you looked into Flat Earth at all?" And I'm like, come on, no. And she's like, "Oh, there's some pretty compelling stuff. I think you might be interested." And again, I had some time. So I started digging into it, and actually found, I'm pretty sure I started with taboo conspiracy stuff and seeing Too Far and those things, and Antarctica, really, that your video about Antarctica's closed or whatever. That was a big one for me too. But the See Too Far, and I never even thought to wonder what the curvature formula is, right? 8 inches per mile squared, that ain't vast, man. The distances that we were working would have made a huge difference in my visual and radar presentations on a day-to-day basis. I know that it would have. And, I just can't hop back 20 years and put it to the test. I wish I knew then what I know now. And actually, some of my goals about this is hoping that some young fighter pilot will go, "Oh, I'm going to check out what that old bastard says," and go out and do what I'm going to describe to you guys in a minute to put it to the test. I hope it happens, but yeah. Well, you guys aren't going to look at this. They're going to Google it and look at Flat Earth Society.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. We've said that so many times to people, that the Flat Earth Society is the first line that the alphabet agencies have put out there to draw people to them, and of course, then they tell them a story that's utterly absurd. So, all right, so you've been looking into this for a while, and as you told me earlier, you started in with Ben's stuff, and then you kind of came across Jaron and then Globebusters, and that was awesome to hear. And I have to tell you that what you're doing here is amazing, because so many people are afraid to speak out because of the consequences and what they'll try to do to you. You have people like Wolfie6020 out there, and George Nutsack, these people will try and go after, people's careers, and it's horrible what they try to do. So I have to say it's very commendable. It's very brave. And, you've already kind of gotten a taste of that with Wolfie6020, and you've had some interactions with him. And I'm just curious, you mentioned to me earlier that he gave you a quiz, he gave you his airline, pilot quiz. He thinks he knows everything. And when you answered the question, and then he came back and then accused you of simply looking it up. And it's like, well, geez,
Yeah.
anybody could have looked it up. I answered his questions right too, but that didn't stop him from,
I was just a pilot that kind of started thinking about 8 inches per mile squared ain't that big.
Yeah. And it's funny though that you say that, because I didn't think that much of it either, and I got my pilot's license back in 1978 also. And it was like, people think that because you're a pilot, you have this magical knowing, right? About how all the curvature of the world works. And it's like, no, they never teach you about that in any part of flight training. In fact, everything they do teach you is directly related to a flat stationary Earth, from your textbooks, which literally come out and state that, to your first days in your aircraft with your flight instructor. And he says, see that point on the horizon out there? You pick that point and you fly to it, and you will fly a straight and level flight, and it's that simple.
It is. And I remember, I'm talking 40 years ago. I remember like the first day in academics at UPT, it was reading that statement in the book is like, this all assumes a rigid aircraft, flying on a stationary flat Earth. And you're like, well, why would they do that? And then my mind goes to, well, the other stuff would just be too complicated in calculations, and they can't teach that to dumb pilots, right? So that's kind of what I thought, and I forgot about it, and that was that.
Yeah, it's easy to do that, but and then when you finally do realize it, you think about all the things from flight planning, whenever you set up a navigation to go anywhere, it's all based on a flat Earth. I
never even thought about the horizon to the eye level thing was a big deal. I mean, I never thought about it, but from the first day in formation training, you're looking at the other airplane, and your instructor goes, if he's above the horizon, you're below him. If he's below the horizon, you're above him. If he's on the horizon, you're level. 100% fact all the time. Pitch outs and rejoins. We used to do these exercises where you're flying together, and the flight lead would give you the pitch out signal, and you'd pitch out and you do a big 180 degree, 360 degree turn, come back at 6 o'clock, and then he'd go into a turn and rock you in for a rejoin, right? Rocking his wings means come join to close with me. And fighter pilots talk with their hands, so that's more proof right there. I'm not freaking okay. Sorry. But the technique was put the guy about a fist above the horizon, get up on the wing line, and drive in level, so that if you overshoot under him or behind him, right?